Good day, everyone. Great to see you here also for this video cast. Just to give you a bit more information, not only on the structure of the seminar in terms of this flipped classroom method, but also in terms of the content that we are going to cover during the master seminar on social cognition and social neuroscience. So the basis for our course will be a book by Jamie Ward. This is actually the first edition. Our basis will be the second edition. And yeah, it covers various topics in social neuroscience and social cognition. And I thought I'd just read you out the chapters that we are able to go through in the seminar, so that you can already think about certain topics that you may want to really go into and others that you might want to skip, so that if you come to class for the first time, you already have an idea of what topics we are covering. So the first one is on the introduction to social neuroscience. So this is just covering things like what is actually the social brain and how has this discipline of social neuroscience and social cognitive science actually developed. Sort of a bit of a history, if you like, and some models on the social brain. Then we will talk about the methods of social neuroscience, so how we bridge from behavior to the brain, to culture, to the cells, to some hormones. So how do we actually do this in order to study real social behavior? Then the third chapter we will talk about is the evolutionary origins of social intelligence and culture. So this is just sort of going into different social intelligence hypotheses. Why have humans perhaps developed the best social intelligence in all species around? Do they really have that? So we will discuss about this, go into things like cultural skills, like tools and technologies that indicate to us whether social culture has indeed developed or not. Then we go into the fourth chapter. The fourth chapter, well, we have the opportunity for the fourth chapter, right? It's also up to you what we possibly want to skip and what we want to really go into. So the fourth chapter is called Emotion and Motivation. Here we talk about very basic things on emotion and motivation and go into things like reward and punishment and the neural correlates of that. Then the fifth chapter is on perceiving others. So how we perceive others from their face, from their voice, and also from their body, and what sort of impression do we form based on these sort of social perceptual information. Then the sixth chapter is actually my study focus for my habilitation. It's called Understanding Others. It covers things like empathy and theory of mind. So these are phenomena that are very important if you do want to understand what another person might be thinking, feeling, believing, and so forth. And in that chapter, we would also be able to talk about autism, because autism is a model disorder or disposition where these mechanisms are not fully in function. So it's a good model organism to study actually what is needed to understand others in a appropriate manner. Then the seventh chapter is called Interacting with Others. Now, interacting with others, here we have things like helping behavior, altruism, and also sort of game theory, sort of strategies on how people behave with others in an economic type of sense. The eighth chapter is also quite interesting, relationships. So here we talk about everything in terms of attachment, separation, rejection, and loneliness. Also about grief and what love actually is in a scientific manner. Then the 9th chapter is concerned with group and identity. So first part is concerned with what is actually identity, what is our self-concept, what it is made out of. And then we dive into things like group identities, in-group, out-group identity, prejudice, stereotyping, discrimination, and where we find these sort of things and how we concern ourselves with this in our daily lives. Then the 10th chapter is on morality and antisocial behavior. Here we look into things like anger and aggression and controllability and responsibility of these types of behaviors. And the last chapter is chapter 11, and here the topic is developmental social neuroscience. So here we have a good look at social capacities and how they develop from a newborn over to adolescence to adulthood, and what functions might work, might not work, go away, come back, and so forth. That's an interesting chapter as well. So yeah, in total we have these 11 topics that we could cover. Usually it's quite useful to split them somewhat as well, because it's quite a lot of content for each chapter. But I wanted you to already know about these chapters so that you can take a bit of time to think about what topics you really want to cover, and perhaps what topic you would also be excited about to do a little activation and an application of the knowledge as I described it in the structure audiocast. Okay, also it might help you, right, for your third assignment where you are supposed to describe your dream job, which topics might be most important for you to cover so that you can fulfill this assignment in a sensible manner. That's all for now, and again, I look forward to meeting you at the first class meeting. Bye bye.